Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. I am Miranda Hoover. I'm a digital illustrator. I would like to thank you all again for coming. I'd also like to thank my friends and family for all of their support, my cohort for making this program so enjoyable, and my mentor Kelsey King, who keeps me on track and from losing sight of my goals. So, how productive procrastination shaped my art. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, I define it as avoiding something I should be working on, but then feeling less guilt by working on something seemingly as important. For example, drawing a bunch of ink characters instead of working on my actual presentation. So, to give you an idea of my style, I love to draw cute things and scenes that tell a story. I typically lean towards fanciful, whimsical themes because I love to see the unexpected directions a story and a narration can go when you diverge from reality. I also stick towards cute things because it's very approachable, it pulls people in, and it also makes them feel more comfortable when they're facing even monster-like characters. Where to go? There we go, monster-like characters. So I naturally found myself drawn to children's books. So a couple years ago, I decided to turn away from a career outside of art, and then came to MCAD to learn more about what it means to be a professional illustrator and to learn how to make children's books. So I'll give you a look into part of my process by showing you some progress videos for this illustration. So I typically start with brainstorming, where I figure out what sort of message I want to convey and find the best way to do that through the sketches. Then I'll move on to the refining stage, which typically takes several rounds of feedback to make sure that the message that I want to communicate is coming across. And then I move on to the inking, cell shading, coloring, and then any other sort of finalizing that's needed. I also get some feedback on that along the way until I have a final illustration. But unfortunately, this is mostly a lie because I don't typically have the attention span to finish one stage before moving on to the next one. So to give you a more accurate view of my process, I'll show you the process video for this one here. This is Kamari. Kamari is a pest control robot that's found new life in a junkyard as a friend and a home to a community of mice. So you'll see in this video, I already have a rough sketch, but I've barely touched any of the background. I begin to ink the foreground and then the robot. I also don't finish inking the robot before finally getting around to the background and then finishing that before I go back to the rest of the project. This isn't the most efficient process, but I often find myself hitting a wall while I'm working. So in order to keep moving, I'll change gears and work on another stage and then come back. I also find that the more time I spend working on a piece, the more I learn about the worlds that I'm building. So then I will leave myself some flexibility to make changes and add in some more details, even if I'm no longer at the sketching stage. So I've learned how to draw single image stories, but children's book takes a lot more than a single image. So instead of jumping to one to many, I decided to start with 8-page zines. So this is my first one. It's a story about a character named May, and as we find out through the story, April showers bring May flowers. My second one was a simple pun between two avocado halves. I'm avocado, you're avocado, together we're all avocados. So at this point in the program, I'm feeling pretty good with where I'm at. I've gone from 1 image to 8 images. Soon I'll be on to 32. I'll have my own children's book. What could possibly stop me now? Risographs. So when I first printed April's showers as a risograph, I didn't realize the ripple effect that it would have. Risographs, if you're not familiar, they're a lot like screen printing, where you print out one layer of color at a time, and your colors are fairly limited, but if you play with their layering and their opacity, you can get a full range of colors. There's also a level of imperfection expected with the process. Like you can see the risograph in the middle. There's a lot of texture around the edges, which you don't see in the digital mockup. There's also some misalignment expected, like you see the far one over there. That's a bit exaggerated because that was printed on thicker paper and it's more difficult to get an accurate alignment with thick paper, but you can kind of see what sort of fun, unexpected results that you can get. So these were my first two risograph posters, and they would not be my last. Risograph posters are a lot faster of projects than a book is, so you get those like happy endorphins from completing a project, and you're tempted to make another one and then another one. So this is just a sample of the ones I made during my time at the program. And I've actually found the process to be very enlightening because I have a really hard time with the actual coloring stage. There are so many options available, I don't know where to start and I don't know where to go, so I typically get very overwhelmed. So I've actually taken the risograph colors and I've started using them even for non-risograph projects. I kind of see how far they can take me and then I'll make changes as needed to fit the project. I'm also a lifelong perfectionist, so it's been teaching me how to accept some level of imperfection in my work. But I haven't strayed too far from my goal. My second semester was committed to working on this large banner comic that I spent most of the semester on. This is essentially a cross-section of Monster Spawning Co., a factory dedicated to fulfilling your monster creation needs. I found myself drawn to monsters because for me, they represent what is scary and imperfect in ourselves and in our culture. And I create for them a world where they can be loved or at least observed without fear. If you mix together monsters, ghosts, and humor, it creates a safe space for children to learn more and become more comfortable with scarier, darker themes. This project really shows what motivates me when I am working, because I absolutely love details. So as I'm working, I imagine how the audience is experiencing my work, and I like to hide in details and Easter eggs to essentially reward them for spending more time looking at a piece. So with this one, I put in different points that connect one to another, like I have a tentacle entering a pipe over there, and then coming out of a toilet to grab another employee. I have pop culture references like the girl from The Ring and a piranha plant piranha. I also have a Rickroll hidden somewhere in there. I have a character cheating death at cards, and other fun things to find. And of course, more risographs. So as part of my procrastination, I would take posters that I was creating for this world and realize them in ours as posters. This was my first time printing risographs on black paper, and I really enjoyed seeing how the mint essentially acted as a white, and the pink looks like red on the black paper until you layer it with the mint and it turns back into bright pink. So now I'm in my third semester and I'm facing a big thesis project, so I need to figure out how to combine my goal, children's books, with my interest, monsters, and my distraction, risographs. So I find myself turning towards inspiration like Creepy Pair of Underwear, written by Aaron Reynolds and illustrated by Peter Brown, who together combine a cute aesthetic with humor and spooky themes to create a fun story. I'm also inspired by There's a Ghost in This House by Oliver Jeffers, who takes a unique approach to the page turn using transparent sheets to introduce ghosts into the scene. So now I finally started making my very first children's book, and it begins with Night 1, There's Something in My Closet. It's a story about a child who hears strange noises in their closet and knows there must be a dreaded monster inside, but they struggle through the anxiety of actually opening the door. And as you might have guessed, I'm planning to print it as a risograph on black paper. This is my first character design or character test on the risograph paper as from a risograph print, as I see the best way to portray this character through this medium. And as I've been progressing through this project, I'm learning how important all of these distractions and diversions actually are. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to go off the path without losing my way. And I look forward to seeing what distracts me next and how that will shape my art. Thank you. Are there any questions?
What are the main difference between regular traditional book making versus making a book with risograph prints?
So for risographs, it's actually something that's really interesting is that the ink never quite dries fully. It's kind of like newspaper where you can rub it and it kind of can smudge off. So that is kind of a concern when making a book, which is made to be handled, especially like with children's books. So that's sort of something to account for is where are people going to touch it and handle it. Also, there's kind of less control than printing, just like a digital printer. So there's sort of that like, embracing the imperfections, seeing how things are going to line up. You're not quite sure until you actually get it. Jamie?
Do you enjoy the challenges that the risograph gives you?
Yes and no. Being a perfectionist, it is a struggle sometimes because there's like always something exactly how I want it. But then you get like the fun, unexpected results, and like, there's the excitement around it of like, what are you gonna get? So there's sort of that thrill that adds to the like, well, now I want to do another one and see what happens. Yeah. I think Maddie was next.
So you mentioned that you take a lot of feedback kind of through the process, and I'm wondering, as you've grown in what you're doing, does the level of feedback has that changed? The level that you need to like know that you're hitting home?
Yes. When I started, I definitely got more like technical feedback, and then now I'm getting more of the like really getting in there, like what is the message? Is that coming across? Is that the best way to show the message? Which has been very helpful in my growth. Cass?
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, I guess I'm more curious about your character because I see that you put a lot of thought on the personality and the color palette that's going to stand out against like the black paper with its risograph. I wanted to know like, do you already have a name for your character, and do you have is like your character based on someone in your life or someone like a personality that really like you want to showcase for children?
Yeah. I don't actually have a name picked out yet. The character gives me like a Timmy or a Tommy vibe, but I also want
Timothy.
Yeah, I get a Timothy. And I'm currently living with my niece and nephew, so I think their personalities really show through, unconsciously at least. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun like doing character studies for this one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right?
The way that you put together pictures, it's your line work is like super sharp and super clean, and to me is sort of reminiscent of like animation and comics. And I'm curious, kind of, what your kind of inspirations or influences were, and how you sort of found your own way of drawing.
Yeah, I think I'm very influenced by animation, like more so like, I was a Cartoon Network kid, so like love all of those, and I think that's kind of how I, when I started actually drawing characters, it was like, I want to draw characters that represent that, which like you don't always see in children's books, but I was like, well, you do you, so I'm gonna try to bring that into more children's book stuff, so. Oh, Devin?
Do you think that your influence from like Cartoon Network shows has influenced the way that you make character designs, like kind of like almost like subconsciously giving them enough energy that they could be like animatable?
Yeah, I think it's very unconscious or subconscious that I do it. But yeah, it's definitely like working on children's content. I have to tap into like what I loved as a child, and then like you know kind of went forward with that. David?
Can you say like just a little bit of what do you think are like the really particular opportunities with with children as an audience that is interesting to you or that draws you to that?
Yeah, I love because children are like so open. They're open to like humor and things being absolutely silly and absolutely ridiculous, whereas adults have sort of like, figured things out more. So you can like just like throw random stuff at children and see how they react. And like that's a pretty fun experience to go through.
Oh, we have a great vacation.
Oh, no, that's good for me.
Please give another round of applause for Miranda Hoover.